Hello, welcome to Meet Me at the Movies. Noel T. Manning II here, spending time with you as always, talking cinema, whether it's reviewing films, whether it's diving into a hot topic or bringing on filmmakers. And really happy today to have a filmmaker, Alexander Jeffery, is joining us to talk about a new feature-length documentary. And I got to tell you, I love Evan. I absolutely love Evan, and I think anybody who watches this documentary called You Have No Idea will fall in love with Evan as well. So, Alexander, I'm really happy to have you on. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, and I completely agree. I mean, Evan is just a light of joy in the world, and I think, if nothing else, people will leave this movie with a big smile on their face just having met him.
So we're going to definitely talk about the journey of making this film. But first, I would love for our audience to get to know a little bit about who Alexander Jeffery is, your background, your loves in cinema. How did all that happen?
So my mom reminded me recently that there is home video of me setting booby traps for my 1-year-old sister after I had seen the movie Home Alone, and like her learning how to crawl and walk on the stairs, and meanwhile I'm off in the background trying to figure out how to set booby traps. So I think it's safe to say that movies have been a part of my life for a very long time. I remember going to the re-release of Star Wars when it was released in theaters again with the special editions. My godbrother took me, and that was the first live-action movie that I saw in theaters. And immediately went home and got some Star Wars action figures and started taking my parents' VHS camera and trying to figure out how to tell stories, right? And it all kind of evolved when I moved from Canada to El Dorado, Arkansas in high school. And, quickly realized, hey, you can't play hockey in South Arkansas, so got to figure out something else to do, right? And I joined the drama program and had an amazing teacher named Delane Gates in high school drama, and she really fostered my love of storytelling. Went to school at University of Nebraska to do a double major in theater, performance, and film and new media. And that's it. Kind of discovered my love for indie film and started making short films, and the rest is history. I've loved it ever since.
It really is amazing how having someone who recognizes a potential or a love in you or a passion within you, and then they want to nurture it and bring it to life. I had the same thing happen to me in high school, and it was drama. I took drama ninth grade through 12th grade, and it wasn't just a drama club, it was drama class, drama. And so I was supposed to be taking a history course, but I was like, I'm going to do drama. I'm just going to do drama. And so I think I was the only student to graduate with 4 years of drama, but
Nice.
Gretchen Jordan was her name. And she was also the French professor, but she really saw that I loved acting, and she really, really pushed that. And, wanted me to pursue like the Governor's School of Drama in North Carolina and the School of the Arts. And I did not do that. But the fact that somebody took that notice and said, hey, you've got something here. And so now I've kind of on the other side of it, where I'm able to, kind of evaluate it, talk to filmmakers and talk about their craft, and whether it's acting in front of the camera or behind it. And so, I'm glad to hear that story, and I can relate as well, for sure.
Well, to Gretchen and Delane, we appreciate you and we love you for doing
Absolutely.
that.
Absolutely. And I don't remember as much French as I do drama lessons, but it's okay. I still remember a few things.
Fair enough.
Well, Alexander, let's talk a little bit about when you realized, at what point you said, okay, I'm going to take this really to the next level, and I want to start doing some things on my own and really immerse myself into this so other people can have experiences from stories I want to tell. Was there a particular moment that actually happened?
That's a good question. I think it kind of progressed so I kind of came in to film through visual effects. Like I said, I had this love for Star Wars, and my first, kind of explorations in storytelling was like, okay, how can I figure out how to make myself, look like I have a realistic lightsaber in the backyard. And so getting the footage onto the computer, learning After Effects, learning how to rotoscope. And then it became, seeing movies like Garden State and seeing movies made by Alexander Payne and, kind of figuring out like, oh gosh, like I really love these small, really intimate stories. And, you know, I went to school in Nebraska, so obviously Alexander Payne is a big
Yeah.
influence there. And yeah, I think, you know, in film school and in theater school, kind of really figuring out who you are as a storyteller, right? And
Yeah.
you know, my thesis film from the University of Nebraska went off and played some film festivals and won some awards. And I moved to Los Angeles right after film school because that's what you're supposed to do. But I quickly realized like not my friends aren't making movies in LA because it's too expensive and it's too hard. And, you know,
Right.
they're getting jobs with the studio systems and trying to work their way up. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I felt pretty quickly like, okay, this isn't the path for me. I want to be somewhere where I can make films with my friends, you know, for little to no money. And
Yeah.
that brought me back to the South with a bit of a detour to Sweden, where I got to work on my first feature film as a first AD. And that
Yeah.
was kind of my grad school in filmmaking, getting to be
Yeah.
on that set and really watch people work.
Yeah. So let's talk about documentaries. What
Yeah.
was the draw? What was the draw to that part of storytelling from feature narrative films to real life nonfiction?
There wasn't one.
Okay.
It
Okay.
landed in my lap. If you would have asked me 5 years ago if I was ever going to make a documentary, I would have been like, probably not. I love to watch them, but I don't think I'm the person to make one. Um,
Really?
yeah, and this kind of landed in my lap because Paul Burns, who's Evan's stepfather, approached myself and my friend Paul Peterson, who were co-owners in our production company together. He said, like, I want to make a birthday video for Beth as a surprise to her, that tells the story of her and Evan, and you know, that kind of is a love letter to that.
Yeah.
And we were like, great, let's do it. So Beth wasn't a part of that birthday video that we did. It was all told through her friends and family. And in the making of that short film, that birthday video, all three of us went, oh my gosh, like this story is so powerful.
Yeah.
I mean, I've known the family for a long time and I didn't know how deep the story went, right? Like it
Right.
kind of plays into the whole title of You Have No Idea.
Right.
Um, but in the making of that short birthday film, just felt the absolute passion to do this on a bigger scale. And we all came together after the surprise and
Wow.
decided, okay, let's try this.
Wow. Well, for those who were curious because we haven't touched on it, the film You Have No Idea, the feature documentary, follows the story of Evan and all those who are within his orbit. And Evan has autism,
Yes.
and it was in the early '90s when he was born. I guess 1990 maybe, and autism wasn't really a thing that a lot of people talked about, or a lot of people.
Right.
It definitely didn't have the I guess the common day understanding of it that we have today. It wasn't
Right.
there. You know, for me, my first interaction or memory of anything relating to autism was the movie Rain Man.
Sure.
That was probably my first connection to. Oh, okay, this is different, and it kind of opened my eyes. And of course, since then, you know, I've developed long-lasting relationships and friendships with those who are on the spectrum, and
Yeah.
it's just fascinating. And your story is of Evan, who is on the autistic spectrum, and it's the impact that he has on all those around him, and that impact is just is contagious as you're watching the documentary and as you're watching those who know him and those who love him.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it was really, I mean, an eye-opening experience for me. You know, I think when I met Evan, I grew up doing theater at the South Arkansas Art Center, and Beth was the executive director. And I remember him, you know, you've seen the film, so you know how much Disney movies and VHS tapes are
Right.
a part of his life. And
Right.
I remember him, you know, watching VHS tapes at the Art Center. We had this rolly cart with a TV on it, and he would have that and be watching movies there. But even then, I don't really think I knew what autism was because, like you said, it wasn't part of the zeitgeist in the same way that it is now. And the understanding of it has just grown so much over the years, and we still have a ways to go, of course. But you know, we're in a very different place than we were in the '90s when Evan was diagnosed, and then, you know, certainly in the early 2000s when I was, you know, met him for the first time. So yeah, I mean, it's been a really, really special and engaging process. And yeah, like you said, I think Evan's joy is just infectious, and I think people are really gonna like meeting him.
Oh, absolutely. And you see that joy in his eyes, and you feel it. And it is honestly, it's amazing to be able to capture that uh, in a way that just feels authentic and natural. And you were able to do that. I love the way that you told this story, not just through the talking heads, but through incorporating VHS tapes as transitional moments, or even clips from movies, and
Yeah,
things that relate to dialogue, and shots of images of books and characters that connect to Evan as well. Loved all that, and so from the storytelling standpoint, you did such a marvelous job pulling that together. And I understand the complexities of editing and how editing can make or break projects. And the editing on this was just so spot on. So
thank you.
kudos to you on that for sure.
Thank you. I mean, it was definitely a labor of love, and like I said, my first experience with a feature length documentary. So I'm used to, with a narrative feature, you have the script to go off of. You have scenes that you can assemble, and then you put the thing together, and you go, either this is working or it's not working, and what do we need to change? But I found it really liberating and creative to kind of dive in without a script, and like, okay, I mean, I knew the general story from the birthday video. Having that short film really helped, our minds shape, okay, this is the general direction. But very late in the game that we came up with the VHS thing
Wow.
as a transitional element, and it feels so obvious now, and I feel stupid for not having thought of it sooner. And I think it was Paul Peterson, my business partner and collaborator on this project and best friend and all those things, came into the office one day, and he's like, I feel like we're missing something. And he brought up like doing kind of VHS fast forward rewind stuff, and I was like, that's cool, but what if we actually did like the tapes and see Evan, like the hand putting them in and taking them out? So we kind of built on that idea, and it was very late in the game, like very late in the game.
Wow. Wow.
And I'm just honest about that, because it's all a discovery process. That's filmmaking. The audience only gets to see the final product. They don't know what it took to get there, and and all that. But yeah,
well, that's one of the things I really love about filmmaking, whether it's narrative and you've got a script, or documentary. It is continuing to live and breathe. And, if you look at the original scripts that people have for movies, whether it's a short film or a feature film, that original script usually continues to change throughout the entire shooting process. And then sometimes after that's over, it's like, okay, we're going to come back and reshoot, or we got to do this.
Yeah.
So it is living and breathing. And that's the beauty of this. And so I always share that with anyone when I'm talking about film, whether it's a college student who I'm having a chance to spend time with in a classroom, or it's just someone who wants to talk about the love of it. I'm like, look, making this film or making these films, these projects, it's alive. And if you understand that, you can appreciate it so much more. And that's just amazing. I love that. We are talking with Alexander Jeffery right here on Meet Me at the Movies. The film is called You Have No Idea. And I've got to tell you, as an audience, you have no idea how much you're going to fall in love with Evan until you get a chance to check out this film. So we're going to take a quick intermission. We're going to come back and talk more about Evan and about this story. So stick around.
Won't you come and meet me at the movies? Won't you come and watch a...
Hi, I'm Shara Miller, the host of Artworks. Each month we bring to you wonderful, talented artists from here in Cleveland County and the region. We have artists, we have potters, we have painters, we have musicians, we have actors. We just have wonderful artists that come to you and tell you about all that they're doing, their creativity, what inspires them. Join me here on Artworks each month on C19. You can also watch us online at c19.tv.
For many kids, just showing up to school is a challenge. Staying through graduation is even harder. So at communities and schools, we do just what our name says. our staff brings a community of resources to meet each student's needs right in their school, doing whatever it takes to keep kids focused so they see what we see, a bright future. Join in at communitiesinschools.org.
Won't you come and meet me at the movies? Won't you come and watch a flick?
Hello, welcome back to Meet Me at the Movies. Noel T. Manning II here, spending time with you, as always, talking cinema. We've got with us today Alexander Jeffery. Really happy to have Alexander with us talking about the new documentary, You Have No Idea. It's a story of Evan and his impact on the world around him. And it is such a marvelous world when you're able to see it through his eyes and through the eyes of those who love him. And appreciate you spending time with us talking about Evan and his journey of thriving through autism. And it really is thriving. It's not just a story of survival. He thrives. He thrives in his world. And that's shown in this film.
Well, thank you so much, first of all, for having me. And yeah, I mean, it's, I think Beth would tell you if she were here that, like, it was a journey, and it was not an overnight thing, but it was her mission in life to not just have him, like you said, survive, but thrive and really have a community and have friends and have a really great life. And he certainly does. And I feel really lucky and fortunate to have him in my life.
And the film is available where? Give us let the audience know where they can find this.
Yeah, so the film is available on Amazon Prime and Apple TV April 2nd, which is World Autism Awareness Day. So I love the fact that our release date actually lines up with something to do with the movie, which is really cool. And yeah, people can rent it, buy it. We are pushing people towards Amazon if they have a choice between the two, because Amazon is an algorithm-driven platform, so that will actually help us get the film in front of more eyeballs and new people that might not know about it. So yeah, it's really exciting. We can't wait for it to come out.
And this is not your first project that's been able to utilize Amazon as well, correct?
That's right. Yeah. So so my production company, Bespoke Works, that made this film, myself and Paul Peterson, our first feature film that we did together was actually shot before COVID in 2019 in Sicily, in Italy, literally right before COVID. We shot it in like October, November of 2019. And it's a film called A Chance Encounter that was distributed by Samuel Goldwyn Films. And yeah, it's available on Prime and Tubi and Plex and all those kind of places.
So moving from that, a feature film to a documentary, we've talked a little bit before the break about how that just, you had no intention for that to happen, but it did. What did you learn from the documentary process that maybe you had not learned in the feature film process? Was anything different that you learned about yourself or learned about filmmaking in general?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think like I really loved the fluidity of the doc process. The fact that it wasn't all shot when we started editing, and it wasn't, we didn't know the exact order of the story, and it was almost like solving a puzzle in a lot of ways, and it really activated my brain and excited me in a new way that I hadn't gotten with narrative. And I certainly love and appreciate the narrative process too. And I think maybe the thing that I learned from this documentary process that I might take to narrative is just that the story doesn't have to be set in stone, right? Like that you can craft it and mold it in interesting ways, and that maybe like thinking more outside the box and what the final product can be. I think it opened my mind a lot as a filmmaker. It really did.
Yeah. Well, the process that you have to go through from a documentary standpoint, and I've got a little background in this myself, doing some documentaries.
Yeah.
There's so much that comes into play. Everything from lining up your interviews and hoping you get some good material from there. And there are times that you may interview folks that you're like, okay, this person's background, they're going to be perfect. And then you come back and you're like, there was just nothing there. But then other times there's someone that you're like, okay, I know I want to talk to them. And then you've got the most rich material with sound bites from that. You're like, oh my gosh, there's so much here.
Totally.
Talk about that journey of lining up all the people that you wanted to talk about, the subjects of this documentary, those supporting characters,
Yeah.
and then getting those old home movies and that process, because there is so much involved in that, and that also is a living and breathing thing as you're going through it as well.
Totally. Well, to your first point, like Beth's interview alone was probably 4.5, 5 hours long, and we got we got to get it to a 90-minute movie, right? So and she gave us so much great stuff. There are stories that she told that didn't make it in the documentary that I wish could have, because there's so much, and but eventually you kind of get to a point like where you're like, okay, what's the through line? What's the story that people are following? And sometimes it just didn't make sense, and you had to kill those darlings.
Right.
Like for instance, there was a time when Evan wanted to go buy film, and so it cost about $20 to go buy some film from Walgreens so he could take pictures. And so he'd be calling people asking for $20 so he could go buy film. And I thought it was a great little tidbit, but it just didn't ever fit into the story in a natural way. So there's so many things like that, right? And then as far as like the supporting cast of the interviews, it felt really important. Obviously, Paul Burns and his kids, and Beth's family, like those are just the no-brainers. They've been part of Evan's life for a very long time. And then as far as Richard and Mary Pat goes, they both were big influential parts of the story, and they're also just really good storytellers. And so they just felt like, and again, the birthday video, I don't want to say it was like an audition process, but we kind of got a sense of like, okay, who was really good at weaving the threads, where Beth, needed to have the gaps kind of filled in. And Richard and Mary Pat were certainly really good at it, and both, such a huge part of Evan's life. And unfortunately, since the shooting of the, actually, Richard's calling me right now. Since the shooting of the documentary, Richard actually suffered a stroke in December of 2021. And, again, the village for him came together, and Beth and all his friends and the people from this movie, got him through that. And he's, and he didn't, he's alive, and he's unfortunately using a wheelchair now. But it's it's an ongoing story, and it continues to ebb and flow. But then to your other point about the archival, right? The footage and the photos that Beth had for us to use was, this movie wouldn't have been possible if she didn't have all that stuff. And she just had this great documentation of Evan's journey, and especially the stuff where he's learning to use language and all those kind of things. Like it was just the fact that we had that to fill in that part of the storytelling process was so incredible.
Yeah, and also weaving in how Evan learns visually, and how those elements speak through him, not to him, but through him.
Yeah,
I love that. We've got about 5 minutes, but I do want to ask you this: what did you learn about yourself during this process? What's the biggest takeaway for you that you gained, and maybe what would you hope that audiences will take away?
Gosh, it's a good question. As far as like what I learned about myself, I think maybe going back to that rigidity of, with narrative filmmaking, thinking that it has to be a certain way, and thinking that the kind of leaving yourself open to more discovery and more flexibility in the creative process. I think it's super easy to fall into a comfort with creativity and a comfort with your process. And so I really learned that, like, I think I need to push myself out of my comfort zone. Like, documentary was not in my comfort zone, and it was so rewarding. So I think that's something that I really learned is like, okay, find those opportunities, seek out those opportunities to push yourself creatively and go outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah. Allow yourself to take risk. Allow yourself to take risk.
Yeah. And I think that's the kind of stuff that audiences respond to too. Like when they can feel that there's, it's not just a safe kind of thing being told. Right. So that's been a huge, I think, lesson for me. And then as far as what I hope the audience takes away, and what I think Beth and Paul hope the audience takes away as well, is you can be one of the people in Evan's life, and I'm using Evan as a fill-in for anybody here, but you can be part of somebody's village. And it might, like we say in the doc, like it might only be an hour of your time a week, or an hour of your time a month. And my goodness, what a difference that hour makes in these people's lives. So it's not a lot. It's not a huge ask. And I think we really hope that, people who see this, if they aren't, experiencing this journey themselves, if they're one of the ancillary people, like, hey, you can be a part of this, and it will not only make a huge difference to the people that you're helping, but it will fulfill you in a way that might be surprising.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Absolutely love it. The film is You Have No Idea. We are talking with the director and the friend behind this film. And you're going to love Evan. And where can people find this? Again, they can find it, which is available on World Autism Day, April 2nd, and will be available beyond that.
Yep.
And what are the platforms?
That'll be Amazon Prime and Apple TV.
Great. Alexander, if there are folks out there that want to learn more about autism, are there any places that you would recommend sending our viewers or those listening to check out?
So we're working on some partnerships with autism organizations through the release of this film. And so if you go to bespokeworksllc.com, which is my website, and go to the You Have No Idea page on the website, we're going to be compiling a list of resources and websites that people can check out. In addition to that, people who might be in Beth's shoes or might have questions for Beth, we have an email specifically about the movie for her there that they can reach out to her.
Love it. Love this. Absolutely wonderful. Any final thoughts or comments you want to make sure you share with the audience before we wrap things up?
I think this is studios and big movie releases have marketing budgets that we just don't have, right? And so you can really do a great thing in supporting independent film, truly independent film, by going to find this movie and other movies like it. And I really hope that you'll take that call to action and go, even if it's just renting this movie, but please give it a rating, because that again helps us get into the algorithm and get seen by more people. And I do think this is an important film for people to see.
Alexander Jeffery, our guest right here on Meet Me at the Movies. The film is You Have No Idea, and you can find it on Apple TV Plus and also through Amazon. And we encourage you to do that. It is a heartwarming story that will speak to you, and it will echo well beyond the time that you leave it. I promise you that. I appreciate you guys spending time with us as you do that. And Alexander, thank you as well. And until next time, for Meet Me at the Movies, I'm Noel T. Manning II, and that is a wrap.
Many films to view until we meet again. Next time we see you, we'll gladly fill you in. We'll tell about the happy and the sad ones. We'll talk about the good ones and the bad ones. Many films to view till we meet again.